Commander Karath stood before the viewport of his quarters and watched the stars. Four eyes, two pairs blinking in sequence. The way his people had done for 60,000 years. The way they would do for 60,000 more. He was 412 years old, young by Valoran standards. Young enough that some on the High Council still called him ambitious. Old enough that he no longer cared what they called him. This would be his last conquest. The thought settled in his chest like a stone. 40 campaigns across 2 centuries. 40 species brought into the Dominion's embrace. 40 worlds that had resisted, then submitted, then thrived under Valoran guidance. It was a good record. A legacy his descendants would speak of for generations. One more and he could retire with honor. The communications panel chimed. Karath turned from the viewport, his gray skin catching the light of distant suns. The message was marked urgent. Priority Alpha. Direct from the High Council chambers on Valora Prime. He opened it. High Counselor Vera's face materialized in the air before him. The Old One looked troubled. His scales, usually a dignified silver, had darkened to gunmetal. A bad sign. Commander Kara, Vera said, no preamble, no pleasantries. We have a situation that requires immediate action. Karath straightened. In 6,000 years of expansion, the Dominion had faced many situations. They had overcome all of them. A species calling themselves humans has developed faster than light capability. Vareth continued. They reside in a system we cataloged as unremarkable 3 centuries ago. Sol, a yellow dwarf. Nothing special. We ignored it. Vareth paused. His 4 eyes blinked one pair after the other. Slowly. That was a mistake. Karath felt something cold touch the base of his spine. Vareth did not use the word mistake lightly. The humans are expanding rapidly. Too rapidly. They have colonized 40 systems in less than 200 years. Their population is approaching 60 billion. Their technology is advancing at a rate our projections cannot explain. The image shifted. Star charts appeared showing human territory as a red stain spreading across the Orion Arm. Small, yes, insignificant compared to the Dominion's golden empire, but growing, metastasizing. The High Council has decided, Vareth said. The humans must be brought into the Dominion. Now, before they become a complication we cannot easily resolve. Kareth studied the charts. 40 systems, 60 billion, 200 years of space travel. By Dominion standards, they were infants, children playing with fire. I am assembling a fleet, Vareth continued. 400 warships, the largest expeditionary force in a century. You will command it. 400 ships. Karath's hearts beat faster. 400 ships was more than a fleet. It was a statement. It was the Dominion showing the galaxy what happened to species that grew too quickly, too boldly without permission. Your orders are simple, Verath said. Jump to their outermost colony, a world they call New Helsinki. Demonstrate our power, offer terms. If they accept, bring them into the fold peacefully. If they resist, Verath's face hardened. Crush them quickly. Make an example. Ensure no other young species gets similar ideas. The message ended. Karath stood in silence processing. 400 ships, his final mission. Against a species that had barely learned to leave their homeworld, Edana. It would be over in days, maybe hours. He could retire with the greatest victory of his career. The intelligence briefing took place in the war room of the Eternal Dominion Karath's flagship. The ship was 6 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could crack moons. Its shields could withstand a supernova. It was the pride of the Valoran fleet, and it was his to command. Admiral Saris arrived first. She was old. 640 years. Her gray skin was marked with scars from battles that had ended before Karath was born. She walked with the careful precision of someone who had survived by being cautious, by thinking 3 moves ahead. Commander, she said, settling into her seat, 400 ships for a species of primitives. The Council is nervous. The Council is thorough, Karath replied. Saris made a sound that might have been agreement, might have been skepticism. With her, it was hard to tell. Science Officer Vec entered next. He was Maelori, not Valoran. His compound eyes caught light in strange ways, fracturing it into rainbows. He had served in the fleet for 300 years, studying the biology and technology of every species the Dominion encountered. If anyone could explain these humans, it was Vec. The briefing began. Humans, Vex said, calling up a holographic display. Bipedal, bilateral symmetry, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Endoskeleton, warm-blooded, sexual reproduction with live birth. The image rotated. A human stood in the air before them, naked and vulnerable, hairless except for the top of its head. Skin a pale pinkish brown, eyes forward-facing, small and weak. They are fragile, Vec continued. A single blow from a Valoran warrior would kill one. They have no natural weapons, no claws, no fangs, no venom, no armor plating. Their bones break easily. Their skin tears. He pulled up more data. They cannot survive in vacuum for more than 90 seconds. They require a narrow temperature range to function, between 15 and 30 degrees Celsius. They must eat every 6 to 8 hours, sleep every 20 to 30. They are completely dependent on their technology for survival. Saris leaned forward. Lifespans, approximately 100 years, sometimes less. Silence in the war room. Karath was 412. Saris was 640. The idea of living only a century was obscene. What could a species accomplish when its members died so quickly? Psychic abilities, Karath asked. None detected, Vex said. They appear to be completely blind and deaf to the mental frequencies that connect all intelligent life. Karath absorbed this. Every advanced species in the galaxy had some level of psychic capability. The Valorans could communicate telepathically over short distances. Some species could move objects with their minds. Others could sense danger before it arrived. But humans had nothing. They were blind, deaf, and mute to the universe's deeper connections. Their technology, Karath asked. Vex changed the display. Human ships appeared, ugly things, all hard angles and brutal efficiency. They looked like they had been designed by creatures who did not understand beauty. Adequate for their development level, Vex said. Fusion reactors for power. Chemical rockets for in-system travel. Faster than light drives that are crude but functional. Their weapons are standard. Kinetic projectiles, directed energy beams, nothing we have not encountered before. And nothing we cannot handle, Saris added. Correct, Vec agreed. Based on our analysis, human military capabilities are roughly equivalent to a Category 3 species. Dangerous to each other, insignificant to us. Karath studied the data. Everything pointed to an easy conquest. The humans were young, weak, technologically inferior, psychically blind. And yet, the Council had sent 400 ships. Is there something we are missing? Karath asked quietly. Some reason the Council considers them a threat worthy of our largest fleet in a century. Vec's compound eyes flickered. Their rate of technological advancement is unusual. They developed faster than light travel only 287 years ago. In that time, they have colonized 40 systems. Most species take 1,000 years to achieve similar expansion. Perhaps they are simply industrious, Saris said. Perhaps, Vec replied. But he did not sound convinced. Karath made a decision. We will proceed as ordered. 400 ships will jump to the new Helsinki system. We will offer terms. If they accept, good. If not, he did not need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room had conquered worlds before. They knew how this ended. The fleet assembled over 3 days. Ships came from across the Dominion. Dreadnoughts from the core worlds. Cruisers from the frontier. Destroyers from the military academies where young officers learned the art of war. 400 vessels, each one crewed by beings who had never known defeat. Karath watched them gather from the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. The view screen showed a forest of ships, their engines glowing like stars against the black. It was beautiful, terrifying, and a demonstration of power that had no equal in the known galaxy. This was what the Dominion did. This was what they had always done. They came, they conquered, they absorbed, and the galaxy was better for it. The Captain's Conference took place in the Eternal Dominion's main war room. Holographic projections filled the space. 400 faces looking up at Karath from their respective bridges. Some Valoran, some from other species that had been conquered long ago and integrated into the fleet, all of them waiting for their orders. Captains of the Dominion, Karath began. His voice was calm, authoritative, the voice of someone who had led fleets into battle for 2 centuries. We have been given a great honor. We will bring a new species into our empire. We will add their worlds to our territory, their people to our workforce, their resources to our wealth. He paused, letting the words settle. The humans are parvenu. They are weak. They have no concept of the power that is coming for them, and this will not be a battle. It will be a demonstration. We will show them what they face. They will see our fleet and understand that resistance is futile. A hand rose in the holographic crowd. Captain Varesh, a Valoran warrior with a reputation for aggression. His face was scarred from a dozen campaigns. His eyes burned with the fire of someone who had never questioned the Dominion's right to rule. Commander, Varesh said, what if they fight? Then we will crush them, Kareth replied simply. But I do not expect much resistance. The intelligence reports are clear. The humans are builders, scientists, explorers. They are not warriors. They will see our fleet, and they will kneel. Another captain spoke. This one was Thyra, a young officer on her first major campaign, barely 200 years old. Her voice carried the uncertainty of inexperience. Commander, where do we strike first? We will begin with their outermost colony, Kareth said, pulling up a star chart. The new Helsinki system, population 12 million. It is one of their newer settlements, lightly defended. We will take it quickly and use it as a staging ground for the rest of the conquest. He swept his hand across the map of human space. So small, so vulnerable. From there we will move inward, system by system, world by world. Within a month, the humans will be part of the Dominion. Within a year, they will have forgotten they were ever independent. The captains saluted, their holograms flickered and disappeared. Kareth stood alone in the war room looking at the map of human territory. Such a tiny corner of the galaxy. Such a young, foolish species. They had no idea what was about to happen to them. 6 hours later, the fleet was ready. 400 ships hung in perfect formation. Engines charged, weapons primed, shields at standby. 40,000 crew members across the Armada, all prepared to execute the will of the Dominion. Kareth sat in his command chair on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. Around him, officers worked their stations with quiet efficiency. The air hummed with controlled energy. This was his final conquest. He would make it perfect. All ships report ready, Commander, Admiral Sarah said from her station. Excellent. Kareth leaned forward. Helm, set course for the new Helsinki system. All ships prepare for hyperspace jump on my mark. The bridge crew moved with practiced precision. Calculations were made, coordinates verified. Jump drives spun up to operational power. Kareth thought about his descendants, the stories they would tell. Commander Kareth, who brought 40 species into the Dominion, who led the largest fleet in a century, who conquered the humans without losing a single ship. It was a good legacy. All ships standing by, Commander, the helm officer reported. Execute jump. The stars stretched, space twisted. The fleet plunged into hyperspace, crossing the vast distances between stars in the blink of an eye. Around Kareth, the bridge lighting shifted to the eerie blue glow of faster-than-light travel. The view screen showed nothing but distorted light. The journey would take 4 hours. Kareth used the time to review the battle plans, approach vectors, firing solutions, contingencies for every possible human response. The Dominion left nothing to chance. But deep in his gut, in a place he did not examine too closely, something whispered. 400 ships for a species of primitives. Why? He pushed the thought away. The Council knew what they were doing. They always did. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the new Helsinki system. Kareth expected chaos, panic, civilian ships fleeing in terror, defense platforms activating too late to make a difference. The usual response when a Dominion fleet appeared in someone's sky. Instead, he saw something else. Report, Kareth said sharply. The sensor officer's hands moved across his console. His face was confused, uncertain. Commander, I am detecting a single vessel, directly ahead, distance 400,000 kilometers. A single vessel. Kareth leaned forward. Display. The view screen shifted, and there it was. A ship. Black, blade-shaped, smooth curves and sharp edges. It was small compared to the Dominion warships, perhaps half the size of a standard cruiser. It hung in the darkness between stars, utterly still, waiting. Ship type, Kareth asked. Unknown commander. It does not match any configuration in our database. Power output. The sensor officer hesitated. Ran the scan again. His hands were shaking. Commander, the readings. They cannot be accurate. Explain. The power output from that vessel. According to our sensors, he paused, swallowed. It is generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. Silence on the bridge. 400 ships, 40,000 crew, weapons capable of destroying planets. And a single human vessel was producing more power than all of them together. Impossible, Admiral Saris said quietly. Run a full diagnostic, Kareth ordered. The sensors must be malfunctioning. The sensors officer worked frantically. Ran the diagnostic, ran it again. His face went from confused to pale. Commander, I have run 3 separate diagnostics. The sensors are functioning perfectly. The readings are accurate. Kareth stared at the black ship on the view screen. This was wrong. Everything in the intelligence reports said the humans were primitive, weak, technologically inferior. They were not supposed to have ships that could outpower an entire Dominion fleet. Commander, the communications officer said, we are being hailed. By the human vessel. Yes, Commander. Kareth's 4 eyes narrowed. Put them through. The view screen flickered. The image of the black ship was replaced by the interior of its bridge. And there, sitting in the captain's chair, was a human. She was female, Kareth guessed, based on the intelligence profiles. Black hair cut short, dark eyes that seemed to look right through the screen and into Kareth's hearts. She wore a uniform of deep blue with gold markings on the shoulders. Her face was calm, unafraid. Behind her, Kareth could see the bridge of the human ship. Clean, efficient. Crew members working at their stations with the quiet professionalism of veterans. This was not a ship of primitives. Attention, unidentified fleet, the human said. Her voice was clear, steady, no fear in it at all. I am Captain Elena Ashenko of the United Earth Navy vessel Thermopylae. You have entered territory protected by the Earth Alliance. State your intentions. Kareth almost laughed. State your intentions. This single human captain sitting in her single ship facing 400 Dominion warships was asking him to explain himself. The audacity was almost admirable. I am Fleet Commander Kareth of the Valoran Dominion, he replied, putting authority into his voice. We have come to claim this system in all human territory for the Dominion. You will surrender immediately and submit to our authority. Captain Ashenko did not react. Her expression did not change. She simply looked at him with those dark, steady eyes. I'm afraid that is not possible, Commander, she said. This system is under Earth's protection. Your fleet will turn around and leave the way it came. She paused. There will be no further warnings. Kareth felt anger rise in his chest. This human, this creature that lived barely a century, that had no natural weapons, no armor, no psychic abilities. This weak, fragile thing is giving him orders. Captain, he said, his voice cold. I have 400 warships. You have 1. Even your limited intelligence must be able to understand what that means. Surrender now and your people will be treated well. Resist and you will be destroyed. Captain Ashenko tilted her head slightly. The gesture reminded Kareth of a predator studying prey. I understand perfectly, Commander, she said. You have 400 ships. I have 1. And yet I am telling you to leave. She leaned forward in her chair. I suggest you consider what that might mean. The channel closed. The view screen returned to showing the black ship. Still hanging there, still waiting. Kareth sat in his command chair and felt something he had not felt in 200 years. Uncertainty. Around him the bridge was silent. Officers exchanged glances, uncertain, confused. They had never encountered anything like this. Commander, Admiral Saris said quietly. What are your orders? Kareth stared at the black ship on the screen, at the impossible power readings coming from its core, at the calm confidence of the human captain who had just told a Dominion fleet to leave. 400 ships against 1. It should have been simple. It should have been over. But the sensor readings did not lie. And the human captain's eyes had held no fear, only certainty. Hold position, Kareth said finally. I need to understand what we are facing. He turned to Vec. Science officer, I want everything you can find about that ship. Analyze its hull composition, its weapon systems, everything. I want to know what makes it so powerful. Vec's compound eyes flickered. Yes, Commander. As the science officer worked, Karath allowed himself to acknowledge the cold feeling that had been growing in his gut since the moment they arrived. This was not going according to plan. This was not supposed to happen. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a question whispered. If this was how the humans responded to 400 ships, what else were they capable of? The black ship waited in the darkness. And on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Commander Karath faced the first real uncertainty of his 400-year life. His final conquest, his perfect legacy, was not going to be simple at all. Science Officer Vec worked in silence for 20 minutes. His compound eyes reflected the glow of his instruments as he analyzed the black ship floating in the void. Around him, the bridge of the Eternal Dominion held its breath. Finally, Vec looked up. His scales had shifted from their usual blue to a sickly yellow-green. Karath had served with him for 80 years. He had never seen that color before. Commander, Vec said, I have completed the initial analysis. Report. Vec pulled up a holographic display. The thermopylae appeared in the air above his console, rotating slowly. Data scrolled alongside it in Valorant script. The whole composition is unusual. A titanium tungsten alloy we have not encountered before. But that is not what concerns me. He highlighted several areas on the ship's surface. These markings, do you see them? Karath leaned forward. Yes, lines across the hull where the metal was a slightly different shade, patches where sections had been replaced. Battle damage, Sarah said quietly. Extensive battle damage, Vec corrected. This ship has been hit by directed energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, high explosive warheads, multiple engagements, perhaps dozens. He zoomed in on one particular scar. This impact crater was caused by a weapon similar to our own plasma cannons. The ship absorbed the hit, was repaired, and returned to service. Silence on the bridge. Commander Vec continued, this vessel has fought enemies with technology equivalent to ours. It has been damaged, and it survived. Whatever hit this ship before, we cannot hit it any harder. Karath's four eyes blinked slowly, one pair after the other. What about its weapons? Vec changed the display. The Thermopylae's weapon systems appeared, long rails running the length of the ship, power conduits thick as tunnels, capacitor banks that glowed even in standby mode. Railguns, Vec said. Electromagnetic mass drivers. They use magnetic fields to accelerate solid projectiles to extreme velocities. We know what railguns are, Karath said. Many species use them. Not like this, Vec's voice was tight. Commander, the power requirements for these weapons are... I am having difficulty believing my own calculations. Based on the energy signature, each railgun can accelerate a 2-ton projectile to approximately 15% the speed of light. 15% the speed of light. Karath felt his primary heart skip a beat. The kinetic energy of such a projectile, Vec continued, would be approximately 9 times 10 to the 18th power joules. To put that in perspective, that is enough energy to vaporize a mountain. And this ship has 6 of these weapons. Admiral Sarah stood up from her station, walked to the display, studied it with the eyes of someone who had fought in more battles than anyone else on the bridge. A projectile at that velocity, she said slowly, would penetrate our shields as if they were not there, would pass through our hull like a blade through water, would exit the other side and continue on to strike the ship behind us. Yes, Vec said. How many ships could a single round penetrate? Vec was quiet for a moment. Based on the kinetic energy calculations, 12, perhaps 15, depending on the angle of impact. The bridge was absolutely silent. One shot, 15 ships, and the Thermopylae had 6 of those weapons. There must be an error, Karath said, but his voice lacked conviction. I have checked the calculations 7 times, Commander. I even asked the ship's artificial intelligence to verify. The numbers are correct. Karath turned to look at the view screen, at the black ship floating there, patient and still. A ship that could kill 15 of his vessels with a single shot. A ship that had power output greater than his entire fleet. A ship rated according to human classification at 4% of maximum capability. What did 100% look like? The communications panel chimed. The officer at the station looked up startled. Commander, we are receiving a data transmission from the Thermopylae. What kind of transmission? Video files, Commander. Historical footage. Captain Ashenko says. The officer paused. She says we should watch them before making any decisions. She says she will wait. Karath exchanged a glance with Saris. The old admiral's face was troubled. Display it, Karath said. The view screen changed. The image of the Thermopylae vanished, replaced by darkness, then light. A planet appeared on the screen. Beautiful. Blue oceans and green continents and white clouds swirling in familiar patterns. It orbited a yellow sun very much like the one that warmed Valora Prime. Text appeared at the bottom of the image in both human script and galactic standard. New Sydney Colony, year 2387 Earth Standard. Karath watched, waited. The ships came. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel in massive numbers, hundreds of them. Their hulls were dark, covered in spines and irregular angles. They looked like insects, like parasites. The Kree, Vec whispered. Karath knew of them. Everyone did. The Kree hegemony had been one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, a warrior species that had conquered worlds for 3,000 years. They had possessed technology the Dominion considered advanced. Weapons that could crack planets. Shields that could withstand sustained bombardment. 40 years ago, they had vanished. No one knew what had happened to them. The Dominion had sent survey missions to Kree space and found nothing. Empty worlds, silent cities. Not a single living Kree remained. It had been one of the great mysteries of the modern age. On the screen, the Kree fleet moved toward New Sydney. There were thousands of ships. They filled the orbital space like a cloud of locusts. And then they opened fire. Karath watched when cities burn. Watched as plasma fire rained down from orbit and turned population centers into glass. Watched as human defense platforms tried to fight back and were swatted aside like insects. 12 million humans lived on New Sydney. The Kree killed them in 6 hours. The footage did not spare details. It showed burning buildings, bodies in the streets, children running from fires that moved faster than they could. It showed the Kree landing troops, showed them executing civilians, showed them celebrating their victory. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, young officer Thyra made a sound, a small, horrified gasp. Karath understood. The Dominion conquered. They absorbed species into their empire, but they did not massacre. They did not burn worlds for sport. The Kree did. The footage continued, showed the Kree fleet leaving New Sydney behind a smoking ruin in their wake, showed them jumping to hyperspace heading deeper into human territory. Text appeared again. Sol system, 3 months later. The Kree had come to Earth. They had brought everything. Every ship they possessed. Every weapon. Every soldier. The footage showed their armada surrounding the human homeworld like a noose tightening around a throat. 10,000 ships. More firepower than Karath had ever seen assembled in one place. And their intention was clear. They had not come to conquer Earth. They had come to end it, to sterilize it, to ensure humanity could never threaten them again. The human fleet arrived. Karath leaned forward in his chair, 4 eyes fixed on the screen. 3,000 human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. They were larger than the Thermopylae, heavier, built for war in a way that made Karath's fleet look like a merchant convoy. 3,000 against 10,000. Any military commander could do the math. The humans were outnumbered more than 3 to 1. They should have retreated, should have negotiated, should have begged for mercy. Instead, they attacked. The battle lasted 4 hours. Karath watched it unfold with growing disbelief. The human ships moved like nothing he had ever seen. They did not form traditional battle lines, did not engage in the structured warfare the Dominion practiced. They fought like a pack of predators, coordinated but fluid, each ship supporting the others in patterns that seemed chaotic, until you realized they were exactly where they needed to be. And their weapons. Karath saw railgun rounds traveling at impossible speeds, each shot calculated with precision that bordered on prescience. He saw Kree dreadnought ships that should have been invincible, torn apart as tungsten carbide projectiles punched through their hulls and exited the other side, continuing on to strike the ships behind them. He saw human vessels deliberately positioning themselves so that a single shot would penetrate multiple enemy ships in a line. Saw them using the Kray's own formation against them, turning the Kray advantage in numbers into a fatal vulnerability. One human ship fired. The round penetrated 7 Kree vessels before its kinetic energy dissipated. 7 ships, 1 shot. Just as Vec had calculated, the Kree fleet tried to adapt, tried to spread out to deny the humans those perfect firing lines. But the human ships anticipated the move. They had planned for it. They herded the Kree like animals, forcing them into killing zones where the railguns could do maximum damage. Directed energy weapons supplemented the railguns. Missiles and torpedoes swarmed in coordinated strikes. Point defense systems shot down incoming fire with accuracy that seemed impossible. The humans were not just fighting, they were executing. Every move calculated, every shot deliberate. No wasted effort, no panic. Professional, clinical, terrifying. Halfway through the battle, the Kree tried to retreat. The humans did not let them. Karath watched as human ships pursued the fleeing Kree, hunting them down one by one. Watched as the Kree Admiral's flagship, a dreadnought twice the size of the Eternal Dominion, was disabled with surgical precision. Its engines destroyed, its weapons fused, its crew left alive, but helpless. By the end of the 4 hours, the Kree Armada was debris. 10,000 ships reduced to wreckage drifting through the Sol system. The humans had lost fewer than 300 vessels. The footage did not end there. It showed what came after. Showed the human fleet following the survivors back to Kree space. System by system, world by world. The humans did not occupy, did not colonize. They dismantled every shipyard, every military base, every orbital platform, every facility capable of building warships or training soldiers. The humans found them all and turned them into slag. The Kree civilization that had conquered worlds for 3,000 years was erased in 4 months. Not defeated, not subjugated, erased. The final image was of a human admiral standing on the bridge of his flagship looking out at the ruins of the Kree homeworld. His face was tired, his uniform was stained with smoke and blood, but his eyes were hard. Those were the eyes of someone who would do whatever was necessary to protect his people. Someone who would not stop, would not compromise, would not accept anything less than total victory. The footage ended. The view screen returned to showing the Thermopylae waiting in the darkness. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, no one moved, no one spoke. Karath sat in his command chair and felt the foundation of everything he believed begin to crack. The tactical network that connected all 400 ships of the fleet was designed for coordination, for sharing information, for unity of purpose. Now it was filling with panic. Captains were demanding explanations. Officers were sharing the footage that Captain Ashenko had sent. Crews were looking at the sensor readings from the Thermopylae and trying to reconcile them with everything they had been told about human primitiveness. The chatter built like a wave, fear feeding on itself, doubt spreading like a virus. Commander to Admiral Sarah said, "We need to address the fleet. They are losing confidence." Karath nodded slowly. "Open a fleet-wide channel." The communications officer complied. Suddenly, Karath was looking at 400 holographic faces. His captains, the finest officers in the Dominion, and every one of them was frightened. "Captains," Karath said. His voice was steady, calm, the voice of a commander who had led fleets for 2 centuries. "You have seen the footage. You have seen the sensor readings. I know you have questions." Captain Voresh spoke first. His face was dark with anger. "Commander, that footage must be propaganda. Lies designed to frighten us. The humans are clever, I will give them that, but they cannot truly be as powerful as they claim." "The footage came from multiple sources," Vec interjected. "Multiple angles, multiple sensor logs. It has been verified by our own analysis systems. It is authentic." "Then explain to me," Voresh snarled, "how a species that developed space travel only 287 years ago has weapons that can destroy the Kree hegemony. The Kree had been conquering worlds for millennia." "I cannot explain it," Vec said quietly, "but the evidence is undeniable." Another captain spoke. This one was a Krellin, a species conquered by the Dominion 800 years ago. Commander Karath, what are your orders? Do we attack? Do we withdraw? Karath looked at the hundreds of faces looking back at him and waiting for him to tell them what to do, waiting for him to make sense of the impossible. We hold position, he said finally. I need more information before I commit to any course of action. Hold position, Varesh's voice was incredulous. We are the Dominion. We have 400 ships. That human captain sits there with one vessel and tells us to leave, and we are going to wait. That human captain, Sarah said coldly, commands a ship with more firepower than this entire fleet. Yes, Captain Varesh, we are going to wait. This is cowardice. This is wisdom, Sarah snapped. I have fought in more battles than you have lived years, Varesh. I know when we are outmatched. One ship cannot. That one ship destroyed the Kree hegemony. Saris was standing now, her voice carrying the authority of 600 years of service. Do you understand what that means? The Kree had weapons that could crack planets. They had shields that withstood sustained bombardment from multiple fleets, and the humans erased them like dust from a table. The network fell silent. Young Officer Thyra raised her hand. Her voice when she spoke was small. Commander Karath, the human captain said the Thermopylae was rated at 4% of their maximum capability. What does 100% look like? No one had an answer. Karath closed the channel. The holographic faces disappeared. He turned to Vek. That rating, 4 out of 100, can you verify it? Vek pulled up files on his console. I found references in the intelligence archives. The humans use a classification system for their naval vessels. Each ship class is assigned a threat rating based on its capabilities. He displayed the data. The Thermopylae is classified as a Sentinel-class patrol vessel. Its role is border patrol, responding to minor incidents, showing presence in peaceful sectors. According to human naval doctrine, it is not a frontline combat ship. And its rating, Karath's voice was barely above a whisper. 4 out of 100. What are rated at 100? Vex scrolled through the files. Human dreadnoughts, strategic weapons platforms. Ships designated as, he paused, planet crackers. Planet crackers. Karath thought about the Kree homeworld, the ruins, the slag, the systematic dismantling of an entire civilization's military infrastructure. How many of these planet crackers do the humans possess? The files do not say, Commander. The information is classified above the level our intelligence services could access. Karath stood up from his command chair, walked to the view screen, looked at the Thermopylae hanging in the void. A patrol ship designed for peacetime operations, rated at 4%, and it could destroy his entire fleet without effort. Behind him, Sarah spoke quietly. Commander, what do we do? Karath did not answer immediately. He was thinking about the footage, about the Kree Admiral's flagship disabled but not destroyed, about the human ships that had pursued the fleeing Kree, not out of bloodlust, but out of cold calculation. The humans fought with precision, with restraint, with purpose. They could have annihilated the Kree fleet, could have left no survivors, could have turned every Kree world into glass. Instead, they had disabled, dismantled, denied the Kree the ability to threaten anyone again, and then they had stopped. Professional, not cruel, not wasteful, just thorough. I want to speak with Captain Ashenko again, Karath said. The channel opened. Captain Ashenko appeared on the view screen, sitting in her command chair, with the same calm expression she had worn before. Commander Karath, she said, I trust you watched the footage. I did. And the Kree were a powerful civilization. They had been conquering worlds for 3,000 years. They possessed advanced technology. Karath paused. You destroyed them. We did. Why? Ashenko's expression did not change. They attacked our colonies without warning. They killed 12 million people on New Sydney. They came to Earth with the intention of exterminating our entire species. She leaned forward slightly. We did not have a choice, Commander. It was them or us. You could have stopped after defending Earth. You could have negotiated with an enemy that demonstrated they would not rest until humanity was extinct. Ashenko shook her head. No, Commander. We learned a lesson from the Kree. We learned that some threats must be eliminated completely, not defeated, not contained, eliminated. Karath felt ice in his veins. Is that what you intend to do to the Dominion? That depends on you, Ashenko replied. The Kree attacked without warning, without provocation, without mercy. She paused. You followed protocols. You announced yourselves. You demanded surrender according to established military doctrine. That tells me you are not monsters, just conquerors who have never met anyone who could say no. And you can say no. Yes. One ship. Ashenko smiled. It was a tired smile. The smile of someone who had had this conversation before. Commander, I am going to tell you something, and I hope you will listen carefully. The Thermopylae is a patrol vessel. It is designed for routine security operations, for showing presence in peaceful sectors, for responding to minor incidents like smuggling or piracy. She gestured to someone off-screen. Data appeared on Karath's console. Ship classifications, specifications. The human naval hierarchy laid out in precise detail. My ship has a crew of 200. It carries standard patrol armaments. It is considered adequate for dealing with civilian threats in minor military engagements. Ashenko's smile faded. If Earth had known you were coming with 400 ships, Commander, they would not have sent me. They would have sent something larger. How much larger? Our main battle fleet consists of 11,847 warships. Our dreadnoughts are 40 times the size of the Thermopylae with proportionally greater firepower. Our strategic weapons platforms. She paused. Commander, the Thermopylae could destroy your fleet. A dreadnought could destroy your entire home system. A planet cracker could make your homeworld uninhabitable for 10,000 years. Karath's 4 hearts were pounding, all of them, at once. You would threaten us with extinction. I am not threatening you, Commander. I am informing you. There is a difference. Ashenko stood up from her chair. Walk closer to the camera. Her dark eyes filled the screen. You came here with protocols, with demands, with the expectation of conquest. That tells me your civilization follows rules, has structure, values order. We do. Then I am giving you information you need to make an informed decision. You can turn your fleet around and leave. You can report to your superiors that humanity is not a species that can be conquered. You can recommend peaceful contact trade, negotiations, diplomatic relations. And if we refuse, if we attack, Ashenko's face was sad, genuinely sad, then I will do my duty. I will defend this system. I will defend the 12 million people who live on New Helsinki. And when the United Earth Navy learns what happened here, they will respond. With what? With everything, Commander. They will not come to conquer your territory. They will not come to occupy your worlds. They will come to ensure that the Valoran Dominion never threatens another human colony again. Silence filled the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. We have faced extinction before, Ashenko continued quietly. We have fought enemies who wanted to erase us from the galaxy. We have built weapons capable of killing billions. We do not want to use them, Commander. We truly do not, but we will. If you force us, we will. She sat back down in her chair. I am going to give you 1 hour, Commander. 1 hour to consult with your officers, to review the evidence, to make your decision. After that, I will need an answer. And if my answer is to attack, then we will both do what we must, and one of us will learn a very hard lesson. The channel closed. Karath stood alone on his bridge surrounded by officers who looked to him for guidance. 400 ships waited for his orders. 40,000 crew members trusted him to lead them. And for the first time in 400 years, Commander Karath did not know what to do. Karath stood in the war room of the Eternal Dominion alone except for Vec. The silence was heavy, oppressive, the kind of silence that came before terrible decisions. Science officer, Karath said quietly, I need you to search the classified archives. Go back 300 years. Look for any Dominion missions to the Sol system. Any contact with humans before they developed faster-than-light travel. Vec's compound eyes flickered. Commander, those archives are restricted. Access requires authorization from I am giving you authorization. Search them. Vec hesitated for only a moment. Then his hands moved across the console, entering security codes that should not have existed outside the High Council chambers. Karath had learned those codes 40 years ago from a dying counselor who owed him a life debt. He had never used them, until now. The archives opened. Vec worked in silence for 10 minutes, searching, cross-referencing, following data trails that had been buried beneath layers of classification. His scales shifted colors as he worked, blue to green, to yellow, to something that looked almost like fear. "Commander," he said finally, "I have found something." "Show me." The holographic display materialized above the console, a mission file, old, encrypted with protocols that predated modern security systems. Colony Ship 7, Survey Mission to Sol System, Year 2714, Dominion Standard. Karath read the file, read it again, felt something cold begin to grow in his chest. 312 years ago, the Dominion had sent a survey ship to the Sol System. A routine mission, catalog the planets, assess the native species, determine if they were worth monitoring for future conquest. The ship had carried a crew of 200, scientists mostly, military escort, standard equipment for deep space exploration. According to official records, Colony Ship 7 had been lost to a hyperspace accident. Navigation failure? The ship had vanished, presumed destroyed. No survivors, but Vec had found another file, hidden deeper, encrypted with codes that should have been unbreakable. The real report. Colony Ship 7 had reached the Sol System, had entered orbit around Earth, had begun their survey, and then communications had ceased. No distress signal, no final transmission. The ship had simply gone silent. A rescue mission had been dispatched 6 months later. They found nothing, no wreckage, no debris, no evidence that Colony Ship 7 had ever been there. The humans at that time had not possessed space travel. They had barely discovered nuclear fission. They were primitives, savages fighting wars with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. They could not have captured a Dominion survey ship. Could they? "Keep searching," Karath said. His voice was hoarse. Vec dove deeper into the archives and found more. Colony Ship 12, Year 2689. Survey Mission to Sol System. Lost. Colony Ship 19, Year 2671. Survey Mission to Sol System. Lost. Colony Ship 23, Year 2658. Survey Mission to Sol System. Lost. The list went on. 47 ships over the course of 80 years, all sent to observe the Sol System, all lost to hyperspace accidents or navigation failures or unexplained disappearances. 47 ships, 200 crew members each, 9,400 Valorans and allied species, all gone. Karath stared at the files and felt his understanding of reality begin to crack. "They took them," he whispered, "the humans, before they had space travel, before they had faster-than-light capability. Somehow they captured our ships." "It is worse than that, Commander," Vec said. His voice was shaking. "Look at the timeline. The last ship disappeared 287 years ago. That is the exact year humans developed faster-than-light travel. 287 years ago. The year everything changed. Karath's mind raced. 47 ships, Valoran technology, power systems, weapons and shields faster than light drives, all of it in the hands of a species that should not have been able to understand any of it. But they had understood. They had studied, reverse engineered, learned, and then they had built their own. Commander Vec said, "If the humans acquired our technology 287 years ago, that means they have been studying us for nearly 3 centuries. They know our ships, our weapons, our tactics, everything." Karath felt his heart's hammering. All 4 of them, in out of sync, chaotic. The humans had not developed quickly. They had been preparing for this, for the day the Dominion came to conquer them. "Open a channel to Captain Ashenko," Karath said. "Now." The view screen flickered. Captain Ashenko appeared sitting in her command chair with that same infuriating calm. "Commander Karath," she said, "have you made your decision?" "Colony Ship 7, Karath said. Each word felt like gravel in his throat. "Year 2714, Survey Mission to Sol System. lost, along with 46 other ships over 80 years. What happened to them? Ashenko's expression did not change, but something shifted in her eyes, recognition, acknowledgement. We captured them, she said simply. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion went absolutely silent. You captured them, Karath repeated. You, a species that had not yet achieved spaceflight. That is correct. Hauptbahn, Ashenko leaned back in her chair. Your ships came to observe us, Commander. They thought they were hidden, cloaked, safe in orbit while they studied primitive humans fighting primitive wars on the surface below. She paused. They were wrong. We had stealth technology. We had radar, infrared sensors, gravitational anomaly detection. Your ships were invisible to optical telescopes. Commander, but they still had mass. They still displaced space. They still emitted heat. Ashenko's voice was calm, educational. We tracked them, calculated their orbital patterns, and then we sent up missiles with nuclear warheads. Nuclear warheads, crude weapons by Dominion standards, barely sophisticated enough to be called technology, but effective. Your ship's shields were designed to stop directed energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. Ashenko continued, they were not calibrated for nuclear detonations in close proximity. The electromagnetic pulse disabled your systems. The radiation damaged your equipment, and then your ships fell. She gestured off-screen. Data appeared on Karath's console. Crash sites, coordinates, dates spanning 80 years. Some of your crews survived the crashes. We took them prisoner, treated them according to the rules of war as we understood them at the time, fed them, sheltered them, asked them questions. You interrogated our people. We talked to them, Commander. For years, decades. Your crews were isolated, alone on an alien world. Many of them cooperated. They told us about the Dominion, about your technology, about your methods of conquest. Ashenko's eyes were hard now. They told us you were coming someday, when we developed space travel, when we became interesting enough to conquer. Karath could not breathe, could not think. 9,400 Valorans, prisoners on Earth for centuries, sharing knowledge, sharing everything. We studied your ships, Ashenko said, took them apart piece by piece, learned how your power systems worked, how your weapons functioned, how your faster-than-light drives folded space. She smiled slightly. It took us 125 years, but we figured it out. And when we did, we built our own ships, better ships, because we had the advantage of learning from your designs and improving on them. You stole our technology. You brought it to us, Ashenko corrected. You sent 47 ships to spy on a species you thought was primitive. You assumed we could not detect you, could not fight back, could not learn. She leaned forward. That was your mistake, Commander. You underestimated us, and we have been preparing for you ever since. The implications crashed over Karath like a wave. 287 years, nearly 3 centuries of preparation. Every Dominion tactic studied and countered. Every weakness identified and exploited. Every strategy anticipated and defeated before it could even be deployed. You knew we were coming, Karath whispered. We knew you would come eventually, Ashenko replied. Species like the Dominion always do. You expand. You conquer. It is what you are. She paused. So we prepared. We built fleets, developed weapons, trained our crews, and we waited. How long have you known about this specific mission? Ashenko smiled. It was not a kind smile. Commander, we have had intelligence operatives inside Dominion space for 270 years. We have infiltrated your communication networks, your military planning divisions, your High Council chambers. She let that sink in. We knew about this fleet 6 months before you did. We knew the High Council was concerned about human expansion. We knew they would send a large force to make an example. Karath felt reality tilting beneath him. You engineered this. We encouraged it, Ashenko corrected, through carefully placed information, through subtle manipulations of your intelligence reports, through whispers in the right ears at the right times. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. We wanted you to come here, Commander, to this system, with overwhelming force, Because we needed to teach the Dominion a lesson that it would never forget. What lesson? That humanity cannot be conquered, that we are not prey, that any attempt to subjugate us will end in failure. Ashenko stood up from her chair. And we needed you alive to deliver that message, which is why I am here. Why the Thermopylae was positioned exactly where your fleet would arrive. Why I've been patient with you. Karath could not speak, could not move. 287 years. The humans had been inside the Dominion's head for 287 years. They knew everything, controlled everything. This entire mission had been choreographed, predicted, allowed to happen because it served human purposes. Your High Council thinks they ordered this conquest, Ashenko said quietly. They believe it was their idea. But Commander, who do you think planted the seed? The tactical network exploded. 400 ships, 400 captains receiving the same information simultaneously. The files Ashenko had transmitted. The evidence of 287 years of infiltration. The revelation that everything they knew was compromised. Panic turned to rage. Captain Varesh's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. This is an outrage, a deception. The Dominion does not negotiate with liars. Captain Voresh, Karath said sharply. Stand down. That is an order. I will not stand down, Commander. I will not accept that we have been manipulated by primitives. Voresh's face filled the communication screen. We are Valoran. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We do not bow to tricks and lies. The evidence is fabricated, a desperate attempt to frighten us. Voresh looked at something off screen. Captains who still have honor, who still believe in the Dominion, join me. We will show these humans what happens when they threaten our empire. Ships began to move. Karath watched in horror as vessels broke formation. 73 of them, led by Voresh's cruiser, the Relentless Fang. They accelerated toward the Thermopylae weapons, charging shields at maximum. All ships cease, Karath broadcast across the fleet. This is Fleet Commander Karath. Any captain who continues will be charged with insubordination. Return to formation immediately. Voresh's laughter echoed through the network. You have become weak, Karath, frightened by shadows and stories. But I am not afraid. I will prove that one human ship cannot stand against Dominion might. The 73 ships formed into an attack pattern. Textbook Dominion tactics. Envelopment formation designed to attack from multiple angles simultaneously, overwhelming the enemy with concentrated fire from all vectors. They closed to weapons range. Voresh, Sarah shouted. Do not do this. You have seen what that ship is capable of. I have seen propaganda. Now watch as I expose the lie. The rebel ships opened fire. 73 warships, hundreds of weapons, directed energy beams that could boil oceans, kinetic projectiles that could penetrate meters of armor, missiles carrying warheads powerful enough to level cities, all of it converging on a single point, the Thermopylae. The void lit up. Space itself seemed to catch fire. Energy poured toward the black ship in a torrent that should have vaporized anything in its path. The Thermopylae's shields absorbed it all. Not struggled, not strained, absorbed. The energy simply vanished into the defensive field surrounding the ship, dissipating harmlessly. The shields did not even flicker. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, every officer stood frozen, watching something that should not have been possible. Captain Ashenko's voice came through the speakers. Calm. Sad. Lesson begins. The Thermopylae's railguns activated. Karath watched the power readings spike, watched magnetic coils along the ship's spine light up like stars, watched capacitors dump enough energy to power a city into the firing mechanisms. The first shot looked like nothing, a tiny point of light emerging from the Thermopylae's hull, moving so fast it was almost invisible. 2 tons of tungsten carbide, accelerated to 15% the speed of light, 9 times 10 to the 18th power joules of kinetic energy. The projectile struck Voresh's ship at the engine block, passed through the Relentless Fang's shields as if they were mist, penetrated the hull, continued through the reactor chamber, exited the opposite side, and kept going. The round struck the ship behind Voresh, passed through it, struck the ship behind that one, and the next, and the next. 6 ships, 1 shot, each vessel lost power simultaneously. Engines died, Weapons went dark. Life support switched to emergency batteries. Disabled, not destroyed, surgically precise. The Thermopylae fired again, and again, and again. 12 shots total, each one calculated with inhuman precision, each one penetrating multiple ships in perfect lines, each one leaving the crew alive but the ship completely disabled. 47 seconds. That was how long it took for the Thermopylae to neutralize 73 Dominion warships. Karath counted. 47 seconds. Less than a minute to end an attack that should have overwhelmed any single vessel in the galaxy. The tactical display showed 73 ships drifting, dark, powerless, their crews alive but helpless. Their weapons fused metal, their engines cold masses of twisted machinery, and the Thermopylae sat unchanged, unharmed, patient. Captain Ashenko's voice came through the channel again. She sounded tired. Commander Karath, your captains are alive. Their ships are disabled, but their life support is functioning. They will need to be rescued. I recommend you begin recovery operations. Karath found his voice. It was hollow, shocked. You could have killed them. Yes. Why did you not? Ashenko appeared on the view screen. Her face was drawn, exhausted. Because I did not want to, Commander. Because killing them would force your government to respond, would escalate this into a war neither of us wants. She ran a hand through her short black hair. I wanted you to see exactly how outmatched you are, not to terrify you, not to humiliate you, to educate you. Educate us. Yes. Ashenko looked directly at him. Commander, I am going to show you one more thing. Then I am going to ask you to make a choice. She gestured off-screen. The tactical display on the Eternal Dominion changed. New contacts appeared. Hundreds of them, thousands, ships. They materialized at the edge of the system, decloaking in perfect formation. Massive vessels, each one dwarfing the Thermopylae, each one radiating power that made the sensor officers cry out in alarm. 11,847 warships. The main battle fleet of the United Earth Navy. They had been there the entire time. Hidden, watching, waiting. If Karath's fleet had attacked without warning, without talking, without following protocols, those 11,000 ships had authorization to respond. Karath stared at the display, at the fleet that could have annihilated his armada before he even knew they were there, at the demonstration of power so absolute it made the Dominion look like children playing with toys. They have been there since you arrived, Ashenko said quietly, silent, observing. This was always a test, Commander. Not of your fleet's power, of your character, of whether the Dominion was capable of being reasoned with. And if we had attacked immediately without talking, then you would all be dead. And our fleet would have followed your hyperspace signatures back to Dominion space. And in a year, maybe two, Ashenko's voice was soft, almost gentle. There would be nothing left of the Valoran Dominion but ruins and warnings. Karath sat down in his command chair. His legs would no longer support him. 287 years. The humans had spent 287 years preparing for this moment. They had infiltrated the Dominion, manipulated events, engineered this confrontation, and they had won before the first shot was ever fired. Commander, Ashenko said, you have a choice now. You can continue to see this as a military engagement, a conquest that failed, an enemy to be destroyed someday when you are stronger. She paused. Or you can see it as an opportunity. A chance to be the first Dominion commander in 6,000 years to make peace instead of war. What are you offering? Safe passage home. No casualties, no retribution, just, she searched for this word. Wisdom. Take your fleet back to Dominion space. Tell your High Council what you learned here. Recommend diplomatic contact, trade agreements, non-aggression treaties. Her eyes were kind now, almost compassionate. Help your people understand that expansion has limits, that some species cannot be conquered, that the galaxy is big enough for all of us. And if I refuse, if I report this as a defeat that must be avenged, then we will be ready, Ashenko said simply. We have been ready for 287 years, Commander. We can be ready for 287 more. The channel closed. Karath sat in silence. Around him, his bridge crew waited. 400 ships hung in formation waiting for orders. 73 disabled vessels needed rescue. 11,000 human warships watched from the edge of the system. Admiral Saris walked to his side, knelt down so her eyes were level with his. "Commander," she said softly. "What are your orders?" Kareth looked at her. 640 years of service, hundreds of battles, dozens of conquests. She had seen everything the galaxy had to offer, and now she was asking him what to do, because even she did not know anymore. Karath thought about his legacy, about his family, about the 40 campaigns he had led, and the 40 species he had conquered, about the one conquest that would never be. "Begin rescue operations," he said quietly. "Recover all crews from the disabled ships. When everyone is safe," he paused, "we go home." The High Council chamber on Valora Prime was ancient. The walls were carved from stone that predated the Dominion itself. 12 seats arranged in a circle, 12 counselors representing the peak of Valoran wisdom and authority. They sat in silence as Kareth gave his report. He told them everything. The Thermopylae, the Kree war footage, the sensor readings that defied explanation, the revelation about Colony Ship 7 and the 46 others, the 287-year infiltration, the attack by Varesh and its aftermath, the 11,000 ships that had been waiting in the shadows. When he finished, no one spoke. High Counselor Varath, ancient and gray, sat with his eyes closed, processing, absorbing. Finally, he opened them. "You are telling us," Varath said slowly, "that the humans have been inside our systems for nearly 3 centuries, that they have infiltrated our intelligence networks, our military planning, our very government." "Yes, High Counselor." "On that they engineered this confrontation, manipulated us into sending our largest fleet in a century to face a single patrol ship, to teach us a lesson." "Yes." "And that they could have destroyed us at any point, but chose not to." "Yes, High Counselor." Silence again, heavy and oppressive. Another counselor spoke. Drath, young by council standards, aggressive, a voice for expansion. "This is unacceptable. The Dominion does not accept manipulation. We must respond with force." "With what?" Saris interrupted. She stood in the chamber as Karath second. Her voice carried the weight of 6 centuries. "You want to send more ships. The humans destroyed the Kree hegemony in 4 months. The Kree had 10,000 warships. We have perhaps 12,000 in total across our entire empire. Do the mathematics, Counselor Drath. We could build more. In how long years? Decades." Sarah shook her head. "The humans have been preparing for 287 years. Do you truly believe we can match that level of preparation before they simply decide to end us? Then what do you suggest that we accept defeat, that we acknowledge limits to our expansion?" "Yes," Kareth said quietly. The chamber went silent. "Yes," he repeated. "For 6,000 years we have conquered every species we encountered. We believed we were invincible. We believed the Dominion would expand forever." He looked at each counselor in turn. "Today we learned otherwise. We met a species that cannot be conquered. A species that is stronger, smarter, and more patient than us. This is defeatism. This is survival." Karath's voice echoed through the ancient chamber. "I have served the Dominion for 400 years. I have led 40 campaigns. I have conquered 40 worlds. And I am telling you that if we go to war with humanity, we will lose. Completely. Absolutely. They will erase us from the galaxy the way they erased the Kree." Varath raised a hand. The chamber quieted. "Commander Karath, you recommend peace." "I recommend acknowledging reality, High Counselor. The humans do not want war. They want to be left alone. If we can accept that, if we can treat them as equals rather than subjects." He paused. "Perhaps we can coexist. The Dominion has never had equals." "Then it is time we learn," Sarah said. The counselors conferred, whispered among themselves, argued in voices too low to hear. Finally, Varath spoke. "The High Council has made a decision. We will pursue diplomatic contact with humanity. We will offer a non-aggression treaty. We will acknowledge their territory as sovereign and inviolate." He looked at Karath. "And we will appoint you as the first ambassador to the Human Alliance. If they have been studying us for 287 years, perhaps it is time we learned about them. 6 months later, Karath stood on the observation deck of New Helsinki Station, alone, looking out at the stars. Behind him, the door opened. He did not turn. He knew who it was. Ambassador Karath, Captain Ashenko said, "Thank you for coming." "Captain." He turned to face her. She wore a dress uniform now, formal, but her eyes were the same, dark and steady. "I thought we should talk before the official ceremonies begin. Human to Valoran, captain to commander." She walked to stand beside him at the viewport. "How are you adjusting?" Karath said. "It is difficult, accepting that everything I believed was wrong." "Not wrong," Ashenko corrected gently. "Incomplete. The Dominion is powerful. Your civilization has achieved remarkable things. You have built an empire that has lasted 6 millennia. That is no small feat. We built it on conquest. Yes, and now you have a chance to build something else, something better." She looked out at the stars. "Humanity spent centuries fighting itself, Commander. We nearly destroyed our own world. We built weapons capable of ending our species. And then we learned. We changed. We found better ways. And you think the Dominion can change? I think change is always possible, if we are willing to learn." Ashenko turned to look at him. "You came here with 400 ships expecting an easy conquest. You left with a lesson that will echo through Dominion space for generations. That took courage. It took defeat. It took wisdom." Ashenko smiled. "The ability to recognize when you are wrong and adjust accordingly. That is not defeat, Commander. That is growth." Karath was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "You watched us for 287 years. We did. You learned our weaknesses, our patterns, our psychology. Yes. Tell me, Captain, what did you learn about me?" Ashenko considered the question. "I learned that you are a leader who values his people, who questions orders when they do not make sense, who chooses survival over pride." She paused. "I learned that you are exactly the kind of person the Dominion needs right now. Someone who can help them see that strength is not always about conquest." "Strength," Kareth repeated. "Your ship disabled 73 vessels in 47 seconds. Your fleet could have annihilated mine without effort. That is strength." "That is power," Ashenko corrected. "Strength is choosing not to use it. Strength is offering mercy when you could demand surrender. Strength is building bridges instead of walls." Karath looked at her, studied her face, saw the exhaustion there, the weight of responsibility. "You did not enjoy it," he said suddenly, "demonstrating your power, disabling those ships. You hated every moment." "Yes." "Why?" "Because I have seen what happens when power is used carelessly. I lost my family and the Kree war commander. I watched them burn. And I swore that if I ever had the power to prevent that from happening to someone else, I would use it." Her voice was soft. "But I also swore that I would never become what the Kree were, never use power to destroy when I could use it to protect." "Precision is mercy," Karath said, remembering. "Yes." They stood in silence, two warriors from different species, different philosophies, different worlds. But perhaps Karath thought not so different after all. "The ceremonies begin in an hour," Ashenko said. "The treaty will be signed. The Dominion and Earth will officially recognize each other as sovereign powers. A new chapter begins." "And you," Karath asked, "what will you do?" Ashenko smiled, tired, hopeful. "Return to patrol. The Thermopylae has other borders to watch, other sectors to guard." She looked out at the stars. "Maybe someday we will not need warships at all. Maybe someday we will all be explorers instead of soldiers. That would be a better galaxy." "Yes, it would." Ashenko extended her hand, a human gesture. Karath had studied them during the past 6 months. He took it, shook it, felt the strength in her grip. "Welcome to the beginning, Ambassador," she said. "I hope it leads somewhere good." "So do I, Captain, so do I." 1 year later, the Thermopylae hung in space near the Dominion border. Routine patrol. Quiet sector. Nothing ever happened here. Captain Ashenko sat in her command chair drinking tea from a ceramic cup. Cherry blossoms painted on the side. A gift from her mother before New Helsinki, before everything changed. Captain, her first officer said, we are receiving a transmission. It is unusual. How so? It is from a Dominion vessel, requesting permission to cross into human space for diplomatic purposes. Ashenko set down her tea. Display. The view screen showed a small Dominion courier ship, unarmed, transmitting all the proper authorization codes. And standing on its bridge visible through the transmission was Commander Karath. No, not Commander anymore. Ambassador Karath. Captain Ashenko, Karath said. His image smiled. I apologize for the intrusion. I am en route to a diplomatic conference on Earth. My government thought it would be appropriate to notify you as I pass through your patrol sector. Ambassador Ashenko replied, smiling. Welcome, you are cleared to proceed. Thank you, Captain. I wonder, might I ask you a question? Of course, Karath hesitated, then said, a year ago you told me that humanity had watched the Dominion for 287 years. That you studied us, learned from us, prepared for us. Yes. Tell me, did you learn anything good? Anything worth preserving? Ashenko considered the question. Thought about the past year, the diplomatic exchanges, the trade negotiations, the slow, careful building of trust. Yes, she said finally. We learned that the Dominion values loyalty, family, legacy, that you build things meant to last, that you take care of your own. She paused. We learned that beneath the conquest and the empire you are people who want what everyone wants. Safety, prosperity, a future for your children. Karath's face softened. Thank you, Captain. Safe travels, Ambassador. Perhaps someday you will not need to ask permission to cross our borders. Perhaps someday there will be no borders at all. The transmission ended. Ashenko picked up her tea, sipped it slowly, looked out at the stars. Behind her, the bridge crew worked quietly, efficiently, professional. The Thermopylae continued its patrol. Just another day, just another sector, just another ship keeping the peace. In the distance, the Dominion courier ship crossed into human space without incident. A year ago, that would have been impossible. A year from now, perhaps it would be routine. The galaxy was changing, slowly, carefully, one conversation at a time. And Captain Elena Ashenko, sitting in her command chair on a patrol ship rated at 4% of maximum capability, allowed herself to hope. Hope that the lesson had been learned. Hope that the peace would hold. Hope that someday the strongest weapon would be the one no one needed to use at all. The stars shone in the darkness, and the Thermopylae kept watch.